your worst ever speeches probably aren't even that bad. And this isn't me just trying to hype you up and make you feel better here. I'm actually trying to be somewhat objective about this whole situation. But I want to explain to you how you can use your bad speeches and actually make them your superpower and benefit from them. Not only in the long run, but also the somewhat short term. And I have these weird little drawings that would be a bit much. Scribbles on the screen, and let me explain to you what they are. But before that, I have to be a bit honest here. With my YouTube videos, whenever I record one and or I script one and I guess I edit it, I think it's going to be really, really bad. As soon as I rewatch the video bit on my phone as I'm leaving the library, this is where I am. I have a whiteboard here and these random people staring at me every time I record. I always think it's a little, it kind of sucks. I don't know, it's probably not my best work. But then a day or two later, I sit down to edit the video and I'm rewatching it and I think I'm actually not that bad at speaking. I actually didn't explain this too poorly. My message here is actually somewhat good. And I don't know what the neuroscience, psychology, brain power is behind. It's kind of like when you take a selfie and you think, oh, I kind of suck, and you look at it a few days later or a month later and you think, oh, I kind of look good there. I don't know what that is about, okay? But let me just tell you, I have three very good examples of when I said a poor speech and how it actually benefited me. The first one, yes, I was in primary school, really little, tiny guppy, and I was saying a speech. They for some reason chose me to say a speech in front of the whole school. That was big. I don't know how many kids they were. They were in that assembly venue hall. I don't know, a couple hundred, and then the teachers and stuff. And my English teacher thought I was good, and that made me think I was good. Big mistake. And so I said this speech, and it was decent. But at the end, I had this really cringy part where I don't know what the speech was about. Maybe money, goals, career, something like that. And in the end, I go like, you know what that means? You made your mama proud, or something, something like that. Okay, I know I hit the flick and the little, I don't know, dual pistol arrow point, and I said, you made your mama proud. And in the moment, I thought that was dope. I thought that was cool. I thought that was, yeah, you made your mama proud, boy. But it didn't, looking back now, that was weird. And I only realized it was kind of cringe when my boys remembered it years, because I was probably the fourth grade, and years later in the sixth or seventh grade, people were still remembering it, bringing it up sometimes as a little bit of banter, and using it as a bit of a, yeah, you made your mama proud, bro. What you talking about? So that is an example, but it's actually decent because it ties into one out of the 2 points I have to mention. The second one is, in high school, I had a leadership position, and so I had to say a speech in front of the whole school, and it was my first speech. This time it was about 1,500, probably about 1,600 people I was speaking to, and this was deep at the time because it was my first speech stepping into office, kind of thing. And so I had written this whole speech. I wanted to go well. It's the first impression I have with the school, and so I end up saying it, and it's okay, but it's a bit underwhelming. And the reason it's underwhelming is because I was trying to be something I'm not. I was trying to step into this archetype of being some masculine, not that I'm not masculine, but some overly hyper masculine leader, serious, stern, JFK. We're going to put him out of the moon because chimpanzee, I don't know. If a chimpanzee can go on the moon, a moon can go on a chimpanzee. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. I just kept using that same framework. I just copied his exact line. Ask not what you can do for your school, but ask what your school can do, something like that. And so I tried to play into this leader archetype, and it didn't go too well. Largely because it wasn't me. And so it was a bit underwhelming. And I really wanted that speech to go well, to bang, to make my high school great again. But I later used that as point 2 we'll make reference to. And my third point is, in my first ever public speaking competition, The topic was trust, just the word trust. And so what I ended up talking about, I'd written this whole speech and I thought it was going to be cool, and I had a story, and then I had, here's why trust is whatever, I don't know. And I just remember that story was about, it was on Christmas Day. I think there was trench warfare between the Germans and the Brits. And on Christmas Day, they all stopped shooting at one another and they played football, in no man's land. And I was talking about the first soldier or two who had to show trust in the enemy to go and, put his hand up, put his weapon up and say, hey, y'all want to play ball? You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what I was getting at. But the story was a bit lackluster, to say the least. But I went into that competition thinking I'd already won. I said my speech, I sat down, I was like, yep, I won, that's that. But with this competition, so there was the first round and they have to invite you or let you know, hey, your stuff was good. Here you are at the second round. And from the second round, you speak again, they filter you guys out, you make the finals, and then in the finals you compete, and then there's a winner. I'm still waiting for my invite to the second round. And that's why it sucked, because I didn't even make it to the next round, let alone win like I thought I would have won. And now I can finally explain what I learned from each one of those stories. And so, objectively speaking, when we say a bad speech, it's not actually that bad in the short term. Because with any bad speech, even if it's cringe, even if it's just make what JFK framework, or even if it's just a story like that, we're at the bottom line, we're breaking patterns. And why breaking patterns is so important, I've made so many videos on this. It's a topic I really stress in my YouTube videos. Breaking patterns is essential because it allows us to connect to the right people. It allows us to stand out, be authentic, and eventually, or ultimately, be remembered. That is the key with what we're going for in our speeches. It's not so much about us being remembered, but more so the message being remembered. That's the most important thing. That if we actually have, somehow by accident, we actually have a good message, okay? And if we actually have good words to share with people or good insight or value, they can actually remember it. It's not so much about them remembering us and saying, oh, Lucas, this charming, amazing, whatever guy, but it's more so, if I actually have a good message, I want people to remember it and hopefully apply it to their lives and improve their circumstance or situation or their public speaking skills. So with this speech, I was cringe, you made your mama proud, but people actually managed to remember it years later. Why? Because it broke patterns. And that's probably why my English teacher heard it and she thought this would be good. Let's speak in front of everyone. So that's, again, with the pattern, it connected to the right people, which is essentially how I was able to even get in that position to speak in front of an even bigger crowd. So it connected to the right people. Patterns are cool because they remembered, and etc., etc. This speech, I guess it broke patterns in the sense that I did say a vulnerable story in the start. I did use a framework, JFK, chiasmus, Roman rhetoric technique. Basically, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. In the end, the true test is not the speech a leader delivers, it's whether the leader delivers on the speech. Don't climb life's mountains for the world to see you, but rather for you to see the world. That same framework, which is heavily used or was heavily used by JFK, I managed to use it there. So that maybe broke patterns. That speech, decent story in the start, broke patterns. You get the idea. But what I'm getting at with my second point as well is that is like a rock with someone jumping off of it. No, it's not suicide. It is a stepping stone. Because ultimately, what happens when we say a speech which is slightly bland, slightly lackluster? It serves as a step. I don't want to sound like Lightning McQueen here or something. And the only way when you hit rock bottom is up. That is not the message I'm trying to give you here. But basically, look at this. With this speech, this is my first ever competition speech. I didn't even make it to the next round. If I hadn't had that slightly bad speech, if I hadn't not made it to the next round, I never would have refined my storytelling skills. I never would have watched lectures and YouTube videos and listened to podcasts. I never would have found out about Roman rhetoric. I never would have studied Roman rhetoric. I never would have refined my storytelling writing skills and my rhetoric writing skills, and then my speaking skills, and then listening to TED Talks, and then actually implementing it and joining public speaking club and practicing and failing. And then I never would have tried to improve and work on my unprepared speeches and give myself a minute to prepare and speak for 5 minutes straight. I never would have dived that much deeper if it wasn't for that initial failure, that initial underwhelming performance. Does that make sense? So that's what I mean by stepping stone. And in the moment, you might not see, oh, I just wanted to win, I wanted to go well, but yeah, you don't know what good stuff is coming from it. That's why you should keep it on the low. And I'll feel so bad if you messed up a little. And I'm not just trying to hype you up and make you feel good here. There's actually proof to the pudding. Another one of these things was I once had to write a poem. No, I wrote a poem out of my own. No one told me. I wrote a poem and I said it in front of 1,600 people, and it was supposed to hype people up and get them going and I don't know, change their lives, okay, and be put on the wall and publicized and framed and say, yeah, that's a whoa, that's a poem, But it wasn't like that, because I had tried to go and use different cross-referencing and different intertext from different speeches and different hymns that we would sing and things like that. And I would go and I used this complicated rhyming scheme, and it was A, then B, B, then A, or something like, it was complicated poem. I was trying to write good poetry, but when I said it, people kind of blanked. It didn't really connect to them, didn't really stick. They didn't really understand what I was saying. It was a bit long, they kind of zoned out. No one messed with it, bruh. No one messed with it. So that sucked in the moment and in the short term. But eventually what happened was, from that, I was able to go and apply Roman rhetoric to my poetry. I was able to go and simplify and just go back to basics with my poetry. And then with my next couple poems after that, they banged, people loved it, they remembered it, it connected to them, they loved it. But it's only once I was able to just realize that little minor failure in quote unquote, I was able to go and refine my writing skills, go back to the basics, and just focus on what is the core of poetry. So I basically just went to rhyme scheme and a few basic concepts and a basic structure, and that really worked. But it wasn't, if it's only thanks to that first initial failure which led to that. So that's what I'm getting at with the stepping stone point, and I hope I make that quite clear here. Breaking patterns, again, even if you're a little cringe and you say the wrong joke, you say the wrong thing, or I don't know, you said howdy instead of good morning. It might seem like a blunder, a mistake. It might seem cringe, but ultimately, all publicity is good publicity. And I don't mean that you should now go and start saying crazy stuff online, but you should not be so almost ashamed of your little mistakes, because what that does is there's a possibility that someone liked it. There's a possibility that you might connect to the right person. There's a possibility that people will remember it. So breaking patterns isn't all that bad. Being cringe isn't all that bad. Saying the wrong thing, or what appears to be the wrong thing in the moment, isn't all that bad, because we're ultimately breaking patterns. And then every little setback isn't that bad, because we can use it as a stepping stone to reach even greater heights. Now, this all leads to one important idea I want you to know. Something I want to share with you. As I erase this board, you can also check the link in the description if you want some personalized advice here. It's a link to a Calendly call, but basically my email's there, so we can even just chat on email, or even just ask questions in the comments. I will reply. It's all free, and yeah, the only thing it costs you is your time and possibly your effort, but not your dignity, because it's all private and I don't know, whatever. I'm a creep. So what concept I'm getting at with this video is that, what did I write on my laptop, bro? Yeah, okay, it's never really that bad. So when we say a speech, right, there's essentially two outcomes. Well, not really, right? It could be in the middle and be meh, but whatever. Basically, we either succeed or we fail, right? Right, we say speech, everyone likes it, standing ovation, amazing, Heil Luca. Or we fail and no one really likes it, it's bland, no one connects, no round of applause, and it sucks. Two options. It is only once we fully come to peace with the negative outcome that we can actually go and speak freely. It's only once we look at the negative outcome and put ourselves in the shoes of a Luca that fails and we think, yeah, that would probably suck, but it's not the end of the world. But I'm still a decent speaker, but I still have this and this and that. And it's only once we can look at the failure, at the negative outcome, and we can accept it and be at peace with that and move forward, that we can actually move forward towards the successful outcome freely, right? It's only once we are at peace and accepting that, yeah, even if we fail, I'm good, that we can actually succeed. For me, my example would be tennis matches, tennis tournaments. I used to be a bit more competitive in my prime. I'd play against the player I'm supposed to beat. I'm ranked higher, I believe I'm better. My coach says I'm better. I'm supposed to win. That puts a bit more pressure on me to go and win, or at least not to lose. But it's only once I'm at peace with losing. Even if I lose, I'm still decent, bro. I've lost a bunch of times. The world's not going to end. I'm for the most part fine. Only then can I go and play freely and serve well and move and, I don't know, play well, you know? Only then can I actually go and win, just play my game. So it's only once we are at peace with failing, even if we say a cringe speech, it's not that bad because we actually break patterns. We actually resonate to people. Even if we're a bit maybe overly vulnerable in our story, it's not that bad because we can actually connect to people and actually be remembered. And even if we just mess it all up, it serves as a stepping stone to go and refine our skills and get better. So that's what I'm getting at. That was the video. I hope the ending wasn't too wishy-washy for you. Hope you got some value and insight from this. If you have any questions, please do feel free to ask me in the comments. I will reply. And I hope you enjoyed. Good luck, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.